Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. So wake up, Mr. Freeman. Wake up and smell the ashes.
Did that get your attention? I hope it did. Hi, I'm a YouTuber. We're talking about Half-Life 2, a real gamer's game, and it's widely considered the best game of all time. If you disagree, you may be considered a non-gamer. So, here's my hot take. Half-Life 2 is just pretty fantastic. That is by far one of the easiest things to say. It's Half-Life 2. It's the Citizen Kane of gaming. But what makes Citizen Kane amazing? What does it have that sets it apart from all of these other masterpieces? Well, it's not because of its narrative. The story takes place on the death of a random old man. Well, not just any old man. A business tycoon named Charles Foster Kane. Following his death, a journalist travels the country interviewing Charles's friends and family, tasked with finding out the meaning of his last words. Rosebud. We are then taken on a cinematic journey through his entire life, starting from his childhood to his highest of highs, lowest of lows, and to his eventual death in the present. I will not spoil the ending, but you get the picture. The story is good, great even, but it's not the greatest film of all time good. Don't get me wrong, it has a compelling story with an iconic twist ending, but the story is not why the film is so well regarded. On a technical level, Citizen Kane changed everything in the industry. The way films redesigned set pieces for intriguing camera movement.
This is really a great shot. This is the first interview. He goes to talk to Susan Alexander Kane. This is not a model. This is a full-size set, and that sign will pull apart as the camera goes through it. You can actually see a little line between the X and the A, and it will pull apart, and then we tilt down into this skylight, and then using a flash of lightning and a dissolve and another flash, we can seal the movement inside to the set and to the high angle and then lower angle shot of Susan Alexander Kane.
Rebuilding cameras to enhance picture quality and lighting, inventing new, unique scene transitions. Hell, even the makeup was considered revolutionary. The makeup! It's everything surrounding the film. The way it tells its story, the cinematography itself is why it's a masterpiece. I originally watched this film with my parents, and they both said the film was just good. My mother saying it's just about a guy who thought his shit didn't stink. Now, how could she not understand the importance of this film? Well, because the film released in 1941, and we watched it in our living room in 2017. I didn't understand the importance of this film. I had to literally research why it was special. Everything Citizen Kane invented had been copied and improved on time and time again until the cinematography wasn't special. I can only imagine the feelings that radiated in the theater when it first released. To a modern, casual audience, the film can only be noticed by its story alone. We can understand what makes Citizen Kane a masterpiece, but we can never truly experience Citizen Kane. The time it was meant to be experienced is lost forever.
Dr. Freeman.
Half-Life 2 released in 2004 and is also considered a masterpiece in the gaming medium. And I agree with that. On a technical level, it demolished everything that came before it. In terms of gameplay, story presentation, animation, graphical fidelity, the source engine itself, spearheading new physics-based technology that still stands out today, superb creativity in weapons like a crossbow that pins enemies to walls, grenades that vaporize living organisms, and of course, the iconic gravity gun. Half-Life 2, and more importantly, Valve changed the industry in how we develop games, how we interact with games, and how we buy games. Let's remember, Steam, a multi-billion-dollar digital sales platform, was made because of Half-Life 2, which allowed for the mass flood of indie games to flow in. Yes, Half-Life 2 is responsible for all the cozy farming games, hentai visual novels, and worst of all, Undertale fans. We cannot discuss modern gaming without Half-Life 2. But to me, I can't see it as that. I originally played Half-Life 2 in 2014. I played through the main game and I liked it a lot, but I couldn't see it as this technical masterpiece. It was just a really good game. I was unaware that the 2 episodes were direct continuations of the game, so I eventually played episode 1 in 2019, and I finally finished episode 2 in 2023. I have terrible backlog issues. After replaying the main game, and episode 1 of course, I do think these are great games, especially episodes 1 and 2, but it's difficult for me to experience these games. They have been outdone in fidelity, story, and gameplay. I am unable to experience its domination on the gaming industry. But I do appreciate them because it has a lot of things going for it. The gravity gun, for example, it's the selling point of this game, a weapon that weaponizes the Source engine. One of the key reasons for the gravity gun's enduring popularity is its intuitive and responsive design. Unlike many weapons in other games, the gravity gun feels like an extension of the player's own body. This makes it easy to use in even the most hectic of situations, and rewards skilled players with a level of personal enjoyment that few other weapons can match. But its appeal goes beyond mere functionality. There is something undeniably satisfying about watching as objects are lifted into the air and hurled at enemies, or carefully positioned to solve puzzles and overcome obstacles. Its versatility and creativity make it a true joy to use, and a weapon that players return to time and time again. Also, that gravity noise is so addicting. Really, all the sound effects in Half-Life 2 are memorable. Getting health packs, using recharge stations, breaking crates, and of course, this includes the enemies, from the high-pitched ringing of the saw blades to the deafening tone of a killed Combine soldier.
Unit down.
The sound biomechanical machines make whenever you shoot a rocket at it. They present a grounded tone to these mysterious aliens. Like, if we took those sounds out, it's no longer Half-Life 2. They bring the game to life and add to its immersive nature. These sounds act as the symphony in this game, which is good, because the main game lacks any type of soundtrack. And the reasons why I love episodes 1 and 2 so much is because, yes, the gameplay sections have a tighter focus, but because they actually have music. It's so different from almost any other soundtrack out there. The techno rock track that screams out during fights are simply electrifying. And when it hits, you feel it reverberating in your bones. Literally no one talks about the soundtracks on those episodes. Like in episode 2, there's this one moment where you're fighting off these waves of giant alien ants. It's a fun gameplay loop where you're defending multiple tunnels with turrets and these fun rebel allies who banter with each other. You constantly have to move the turrets around to cover yourself, but they slowly get destroyed. And when it feels like you're about to be overwhelmed, a group of alien allies known as the Vortigons come to your aid, kicking off the best section in the entire game. The alarms and all of the tunnels begin to trigger. You brace yourself for a tough but epic battle, and it all comes to a head when the devs drop the needle on Mortal Kombat. You have antlines spewing out from every area, jumping 20 feet in the air. You're shooting everything that moves. Lighting is spewing all over the place. Future developers, this is a fun video game level. This, right here. Every freaking FPS needs a section with something like this. It is simply put, fucking epic. My only complaint is that it ends in like a minute, but it's one of the best minutes in video games, full stop. And that's how Half-Life games are structured. It slowly builds towards an epic set piece in each level, whether it be the Strider fights near the end of the game, fighting a group of spider zombies in Ravenholm, or using the upgraded gravity gun. To get to those areas, you have to trudge through exposition dumps while you fiddle around the limited space, physics puzzles that were revolutionary at the time, but today feel overzealous and don't ever expand beyond that initial presentation. There are some exceptions, like the Seesaw Bridge in Episode 2, but the criticism still stands. While these are a fun way to build suspense to those epic set pieces, they feel so drawn out that it takes away the hype for those set pieces on repeat playthroughs. Sometimes it feels less like you're playing a video game and more like playing a tech demo, which is fine because that's what this game was. A tech demo that, I'll repeat, reshaped the entire industry. The FPS couldn't touch the iconic stats of Half-Life 2 for, I would say, 3 years. Its gameplay and level design have aged very well, but something that hasn't aged well were the characters. I cannot stand how giddy these characters are. For someone that literally caused the downfall of humanity by opening a portal to Earth and created a rather depressing world where people can't have children, everyone is all smiles the second they see Gordon. Gordon is treated with this messianic aura. Literally, if they just had one guy grind his gears about creating a literal dystopia, I would throw this comment in the trash. But there isn't one. Everyone is sunshine and rainbows the second Gordon appears, and it's so pandering. Nearly every side character in the Rebel faction feels like a fan insert. Even the Vortigaunts, who Freeman killed dozens of times in the original game, revere him like an ancient warrior, though I will say he did free them from slavery, but it's just boring. The characters feel boring, and stories, good stories, are driven by characters. Good characters. I'm gonna be honest right now. I wasn't sad Eli died. What can I say about Eli? He was a good dad and had a humble personality. And he loved Gordon! And Judith, weirdly enough. Thank God the G-Man is literally the main point of intrigue in this entire series and constantly has us asking questions about the lore in this game. Like, why was he so intrigued by Alex? Who are his employers? What's his beef with the Combine? His intro speech is still legendary. But how can we appreciate the lore if there is never any closure? We are still waiting for a proper end to this franchise, but can't because something, we have no idea what, is lacking to create a proper sequel. But overall, the story isn't what makes Half-Life 2 a masterpiece. It has a good story with an iconic twist. But it's a masterpiece because of its technical achievements and its contributions to gaming. Luckily, noticing the fun gameplay in Half-Life 2 is easier than noticing the revolutionary cinematography in Citizen Kane. They both have good, some would say great stories, but compared to some of the games and films that came after, I can see it leaving their audiences disappointed, or just following the crowd because that's the expectation, not a genuine appreciation for them. But there are even more aspects that your random 18-year-old wouldn't appreciate, like it was one of the first games to use refractions in water, how natural facial animations look, and in episode 1 had some of the first pre-baked massive physics, allowing things like scripted yet the natural looking collapse of bridges and buildings. It is truly appreciated on a technical level. There are other great things about it, but to me, I can only ever see it as a really good game, and not the iconic masterpiece many people before me adore. It is a game I respect, but cannot love. For me, Half-Life 2 is not the impactful masterpiece that defines my views on gaming. I was unfortunately too young and not knowledgeable enough to know of its existence until around 2014, but I'm glad it's here. It's a game that always makes me happy whenever I play it, as well as an eternal amount of respect for the title that it was when it came out. And I think that's the only thing that truly matters. I will always recommend this game and the original to people wanting to get into gaming. Its story is simple but fun to play. The gameplay is creative yet intuitive, and just playing it lets you know that you're a real gamer playing a real gamer's game.